My name is Joe Swimmer. I am the Executive Director at Episcopal Parish Network, and we are pleased to be with you today with a couple of experts on legacy giving to talk about the importance of legacy giving programs, giving in your estate plan, getting folks to think about remembering the church as they plan for what's going to happen, as well as a little bit of stewardship thrown in. This is such an important topic, and we would love for our presenters to know who is in the room with them. So if you wouldn't mind putting where you are dialing in from and your name into the chat, we'd appreciate that, as well as putting your questions, your comments into the chat for them, which they'll get to along the way. A couple of quick reminders. We have additional webinars coming up later this month. Hope you will take a look at our website, episcopalparishes.org, to see what those are. Always welcome to join us to learn something new and see some of our fabulous panelists like those with us today. We have our annual conference, which will be coming up March 3rd through 6th in Charlotte of next year. Really pleased to be gathering the church together again. We will be fortunate to have the presiding bishop with us again. He'll be in conversation with Jonathan Rausch, which is really exciting, and another set of really, really terrific keynotes and, of course, terrific workshop programming. And then anything that Episcopal Parish Network can do for your parish, please don't hesitate to let us know. If you're not a member of the network, we'd appreciate you considering joining us. All of the work that we do is funded by our members through your dues. And, if you have the opportunity to join as a parish or a cathedral, we would appreciate that to help us continue this good work for the church and the ministry. Without any further ado for me, I'm going to hand it off to Rob and to Charles in the Diocese of Maryland. We are so grateful again, gentlemen, for your time and your wisdom today, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. So, Charles, off to you.
Welcome. Thank you all for coming to join with us in our webinar. I'm Charles Clowen, Plan Giving Officer at the Cathedral of the Incarnation in Baltimore. And with me today is Rob Bolter, the Dean of the Cathedral of the Incarnation. I would like to ask Rob to do an opening prayer, and then I want to give a little overview.
Well, welcome everyone. I also offer my welcome to you. So let's just take a couple of deep breaths and I'll say a short prayer to gather us together. Loving God, we know that everything we have comes from you. Help us to be generous with these gifts and share what we have to the glory of your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 The topic of our webinar today, from Bequest to Belonging, creating a legacy society builds community. Just a brief overview of what we're going to be doing. The importance of a legacy society is an opportunity to invite people to join in to the future of the church. There are people who have already made bequests through their estate plan or generous endowment contribution to the future of the church. Through the society, they're saying to others, please join me in being generous. When parishioners see the names of the members of the society, they can be inspired to make a bequest and join. And that's our hope for the future of the church. Rob?
Thank you, Charlie. So what we want to talk about is some of the nuts and bolts about how do you actually get it started. Charlie was a retired priest here in Maryland, but he was also working for the diocese when I got to know him here at the cathedral. And he just came up to me and he said, Rob, we need to start a legacy society. And I said, all right, how do we get started? And so the first thing we need to do is just talk about what it is. And so we created a brochure. I'm going to share a little bit of it just to kind of articulate what it is. And it just says that our, cathedral is a place to worship in holiness, for the spirit to grow, for reconciliation to be made real, for peace to be nurtured. We're describing who we are and what we say our mission is. And then we're saying that the Legacy Society is an honorary society created to recognize and thank those who make a financial commitment in their estate plans for the future of the work of the cathedral. And so we created this brochure and we added some nice pictures to it, but we also talked about how do you make a bequest. More often than not, people kind of figured this out with their lawyers, but it had just some specific ideas about it. Should it be a specific amount? Should it be a percentage? What do you want to do? Some kind of a contingency. And we just kind of, made up this 4-page brochure on cardstock, and then we inserted it into the pew racks of the cathedral. And when we did that, it gave people something they could grab a hold of, a takeaway to think about it. Because I got to tell you, it doesn't happen overnight, but once you get started, after a few months and after a few years, more and more people start to pay attention. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And we're going to share all of this stuff so that you can download it later if you want to. But it's really important that in this brochure that you kind of articulate what makes you special as a church. In our church, one of our biggest outreach ministries is called ERICA, the Episcopal Refugee and Immigrant Center Alliance. It's nowadays a very important ministry for people who are immigrants and people who are asylum seekers. And because Baltimore is a port city, it was something that grew out of the need for people who are newcomers to Baltimore. Well, so we talk about why that's important and why that work wants to continue into the future. And whatever it is that people might get excited about in your parish, if maybe you have a great music program, maybe you have a great formation program for children, whatever it is that makes you unique, people get excited about, that's the stuff you want to raise up in this brochure so people know that they're giving towards something, which is the future mission of the church. And so what we did is we put those brochures in the pew racks, and then twice each year we said we're gonna publish the names of the people who made bequests, and we're gonna raise it up and make an invitation. And as you all know, I don't have to tell you that you need to ask in order for people to give. A lot of people were thinking about it, but unless you ask them, they won't necessarily step up. And so we decided we were going to do it twice a year. We were going to do it on All Saints Day, or around All Saints Day. We do a Requiem Sunday here at the Cathedral where we do an All Souls Day. So we do it on that day. We publish the names of the people in the Legacy Society, and we talk about end-of-life issues around that day as well. And then we also do it sometime during Lent. And Charlie's always the one who's prompting me. He's like, Rob, don't forget, we've got Legacy Society coming up in a couple months. So we get our list together, we publish that list, and we kind of make sure people are aware of it. But we do it on a regular basis. It's repetition. You got to make sure that every 6 months or so, somebody's hearing something about the Legacy Society. Charlie?
Well, also, I'd like to show the Legacy Society form we use.
Give me a sec. We love technology. Hold on a second.
Or do you have one?
I've got it. Just give me a sec. Click, click, click. Here it is. Yeah, in our Sundays we put in a what we call a highlights page of things that are going on in the community that week. And on the back of this one, we put a list of the Legacy Society. Go ahead, Charlie.
If we want to preserve people's privacy, but there'd be 37 households on that list. We have 7 anonymous people, and we have 37 couples, single people. And what we do is we put a star next to those who have died. If you were reading that, it would say Charles Clowen and Judy Clowen, and Judy would have an asterisk. That was my wife who died. So that's how we do that. And we respect people's privacy. What you never want to do is put somebody's name on a list like this who does not want their name there. That's why the brochure that Rob showed you, and you can download, has a place where you sign, yes, I want my name to be here publicized, or no, I do not. So that's how we do, and that's how we get people to recognize it. And then again, people see their friends, other people in the church, and they then join again. Now, what we do with Sunday Recognition Sunday is I usually do it the fourth Sunday of Lent, which is Refreshment Sunday. And we then go forward with that, and we do it the Sunday after All Saints. Again, it's important that we show good things that are happening. That's why the backside of this, as Rob showed you, was different activities the cathedral is doing. Now, I'd like you to play my video.
I want to highlight some things that are going on, but pay attention to this, take this insert home with you. The first thing I want to recognize is down on the back page, we are recognizing the Legacy Society of the Cathedral, and Charles Cohen is here to say a few words about that. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Dean Bolton. It's wonderful to be with you all today. And I give thank you to all those members of our Legacy Society which are listed in your program. I'd like to invite you to join with us, Rob and Sally, myself, my wife Elizabeth, as well as Bob and Nancy Elam, and John and Lynn Shemitek, and also Patty Parsley and James Snodgrass. We believe in this place. We believe in its future. All of us financially support this church now, but we want to make sure this congregation will continue after God calls us home to reach out in the name of Christ to make a difference. This congregation, this church of the Cathedral, makes a difference to people living in Baltimore and the surrounding towns. And we want to continue that and support that in the future. And by remembering Cathedral in your will, you can do that with a will, with a dollar amount, with a percentage. You can do it with a 401k. You can do it part of your retirement fund. You can do it with life insurance you may not need anymore. And you can do it with a called the gift annuity. You make a financial gift now, you receive income for the rest of your life, and then it goes to the Cathedral. So think about it, because you are part of the family. It's 100% mortality rate. 100%.
That's a regular line Charlie loves to use.
You all have a will. And I pray you remember your cathedral, your beloved cathedral, in your plans. I'm happy to meet with any of you after the 8 o'clock service, before or after the 9:15 service, or before and after the 11 o'clock service to talk about your estate plans. I'm not an attorney. I am a priest. I've dealt with many people on these issues. We have to sit and talk with you for a confidential situation or conversation. My phone number is there on the sheet, so is my email address. Please contact me if I can be of help. And if you choose, and the brochure is in front of you, by the way, how to do that, in your little pew rack is, excuse me, a form on how you can remember our beloved cathedral, in your will and estate plans. So thank you very much. Thank you. And for a treat, at hospitality hour, we have a wonderful buttercream frosted cake from Browns.
Always get him with food, right, Charlie? Always get him with food.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you to Charlie and Liz for bringing the cake today. Thank you. The hospitality team is sponsoring hospitality hour today, providing for the treats, except for the cake. That's after church. Stick around after church and join us. Have a piece of cake. Have some time of fellowship. Just come down the hallway here. Go to the Peabody room. That's great. Charlie's got a lot of one-liners, everybody, that, what's your favorite thing to say about a Legacy Society, Charlie?
No gift is too large.
All right, Charlie, you want to pick it up and talk more about,
Yes, I would like to.
yeah, go ahead.
I again want to thank, I found six words make a huge difference. Thank you. And that's why I began this talk saying thank you for everybody who's been is part of the Legacy Society. I'm the plan giving officer. I give thanks for people having the cathedral in their will and estate plans. Now, it's changed a lot since I was around 30 years ago. We then just a will. Now you're talking about so many more things part of your estate. First, with a will, you can have a specific amount or you can have a percent. I recommend percents. And also you can do it through your 401k, your life insurance. and a charitable gift annuity, which I did, and Cathedral receives the gift when I die. See, I'm not an attorney, and the priests are listening here are not attorneys. And the lay people listening, very few of you are attorneys. Some of you are, which is great. But to have that availability to talk about this and feel comfortable with it. Again, I talk about when I can meet with people, one-on-one, and also phones. Great thing today with these face phones is you can actually do it live face-to-face or talk about what they would like to have happen with the cathedral. So that's what I do, and that's how that works. Now,
Charlie, let me jump in and talk about the importance of saying thank you. So one of the things that we're doing, so we've been at this now, I've been here at the cathedral for 11 years. And so now we have 37 households, almost, well, if you include the anonymous households, 42. People who have made a decision that they're going to leave something to the cathedral in their estate plans and in their wills. And that took some time for that to build up. And so over time, every time that we publish the list of the people on the Legacy Society list, with their permission, of course, that's a way that we're saying thank you. Thank you to them for their generosity. Thank you to them for thinking ahead. And then that also, when the list gets out there, other members of the community say, oh, well, Charlie and Liz are leaving money in the Legacy Society. Maybe I ought to ask them about that. So then a conversation becomes like, why is that important to you? And what do you want to do with your estate plans? And many of you, my wife Sally and I just redid our will because we had to do some things about property that was given to us in an inheritance. And, that's the time of the conversation. So we may have, talked about the Legacy Society, 5 years ago, but now when we're redoing our will, we're talking with our attorney about, well, we also want to leave money to the cathedral, and this is how we'd like to do it. And that question that Charlie had about, it can be a lump sum, depending on what your finances look like, or it could be a percentage if you don't know what your finances are going to look like. And really, who knows? Because we don't really all know how long we're actually going to live. But the most important thing that we do is to continually say thank you. And to reinforce time and again, there's a big thing about repetition here. Getting started is not that hard. It's just asking people to say, yes, I want to do that. And then they figure out how they're going to do it. But then we ask them to be included in a list so that we can inspire others to do it too. Charlie likes to say, if you can afford a cake, you can afford a legacy society. And the truth is, I think it's very important that you partner with somebody. Many of you may have stewardship teams. But Charlie came to me with his experience in planned giving, and he said, we need to get this going. And so I've relied on Charlie a lot to kind of keep it going and keep the momentum going. And the other thing that we do to kind of raise awareness about that is when we do our annual pledging program, we also include on the pledge card, would you like to learn more about our Legacy Society? And if somebody checks that, they're saying, I want to learn more. Charlie will make a visit or I'll make a visit to make sure that we talk about that and just let people know that we're hoping that they'll be generous to the community. They already are. These are folks who are already generous to the community. What would they like to do in their estate plans? Charlie, anything more on that? Do you want to move on to the next bit?
I'll go on to the next bit.
Okay.
Oh, one quick thing though. When I mentioned the people's names in that talk I gave, those were all clergy at the cathedral.
Yeah.
All those were clergy at the cathedral, have the cathedral in their estate plans. That's an incredible thing. People see that and know we are committed to the future and strength of the cathedral.
Well, Charlie, and I think that's worth saying too, always worth saying that leadership from the cathedral or from the clergy in the parish is really essential. So if your clergy person doesn't want to do this kind of thing, it's hard to get it started. But if they're willing to say, yes, I'm planning to make a gift when I die through my estate, then you can go off and running. And it doesn't always have to involve the clergy. I don't spend a lot of my time doing this. Charlie does most of the heavy lifting and other people in the office. So it's good to partner with other people. And so for those of you who are really busy and working in parishes who might be clergy people, it doesn't take up a lot of extra time for me. Getting started, we had to develop a brochure. We had to do some work around that. But once it's off and rolling, it really doesn't take up a lot of time.
And you don't have to go from scratch.
Right.
You've got the cathedral brochure. You're welcome to copy anything you want off that, change it, whatever.
Yeah, good.
Okay, could I have St. Matthew's brochure, please?
Yep. Oh, I'm getting so good at this. Look at that.
I was rector of St. Thomas's Church for 18 years. And this is a brochure we developed. This is half, another minute, this is the other half. What happened when I got there is there was an outreach fund. And if you could give money to the outreach fund, that was fine. But there was no heritage fund. There's no fund for the upkeep of the church. So I went to a neighboring parish and borrowed theirs and reworded it and redid it. So we had two documents, one for the heritage fund, one for the outreach fund. We produced this brochure, the only thing I ever had printed in the church of good quality. People keep this to go to their attorney. And people don't get this and then next day call their attorney. As Rob said, something happened in his life. He went to the attorney. This is available for people to go to their attorney with. And we developed the outreach fund and the heritage fund. And they grew. Both were endowed funds. And people made choices. We did a legacy society based on that. People did what was needed. And it was just a wonderful way to get people committed. Now, the interesting thing about it is, I also did it this way. It became so fundamentally part of the congregation that when someone died, what I would do is go to the family and ask pastorally, are you going to have flowers? And if they said no, and most people today say no, I say, well, have you considered St. Thomas's, our heritage fund? That's a fund that goes for the upkeep and strengthening of the church. And I would then get, oh yeah, Dad loved the heritage fund. He loved working around the church, thought we weren't doing enough to keep it up. Or I would say, we also have the outreach fund. And I would get a response when I mentioned both funds. Oh, Mom used to work at the soup kitchen at Paul's Place in Baltimore. She felt the church wasn't doing enough to affect and change people's lives. She would want to have the outreach fund. So what happened is, every couple of months when people died, it would be in the newspaper, the Baltimore Sun, the obituary with the ending, in lieu of flowers, please send donations to St. Thomas Episcopal Church for the outreach fund or the heritage fund. So it kept people aware of the importance of these funds and the incredible way that people were able to. So every 3 months, we'd actually bring money down to diocese for both endowed funds. And then when we gave the money away, we'd be able to give that out and publicize where the money was going. I remember having one case which was really difficult. A woman in our parish was in an abusive situation. And I was able to use the outreach fund to pay 2 months' rent, buy your utility bill, and have her move in. And she couldn't have done that without our help. And that it could make a real difference with our food program. All these different ways, the outreach fund made a difference. And the heritage fund meant we had repairs done. It didn't come out of the budget. It came out of that fund. So I want to thank everybody here for coming. And I really appreciate Rob. He's done a great job at our cathedral, telling people what to do, how to do it, and leading it. Okay, it takes leadership. And I helped work with him, and it was incredible. Also, some things in the diocese. We have a diocesan All Saints Legacy Society. And that consists of about 48 parishes in the diocese that have people in their parish. They've now become part of the Diocesan Legacy Society. We honor them in December at our cathedral, which service Rob will be helping with, is going to be a lessons and carols service. And these people will be invited to come and receive recognition, a wonderful service, music, and then a reception afterwards. So we recommend that. And that's something we put together, I did, in the diocese. Recommend that well. Again, you cannot thank people too much because the giving they make, the commitment they make, makes a real difference. And we've got, as Rob said, we're making a difference in people's lives at the cathedral right now, and we're making a difference in the lives to come.
Charlie, I've just been kind of watching in the chat, and I think we're ready to take some questions.
Yes.
So, one of the questions here is, have you created a legacy society of endowed participants to publicly thank parishioners who've made endowment commitments? We don't, I think it's important to distinguish that a legacy society is a voluntary society. It doesn't really involve any particular financial piece. It's really just a list of people who have agreed that they're going to give a gift in their estate. How they give that gift, how they direct that gift, that gets into the issue of should it be restricted or unrestricted. Charlie had that great example. Should it be part of the outreach fund or the heritage fund? One of the things that we recently did, we got a memorial gift from the estate of a member of the parish who was very, very involved in the altar guild. And so she wanted to give money that was going to be helping with vestments and things like that around the altar. So more often than not, that's in conversation with a family member. I know that mom and dad wanted to give a gift to the church, but what do you need? And so I think it's really all often important to have some awareness of who that parishioner was, where their interests were, and be honest about what do you need. Charlie and I were talking before the phone call started. It's like it's always important to know when somebody offers to have an idea to suggest, or to at least start a conversation. I think that's true too. One thing about legacy societies is it's a long-term thing. People who are in their 50s or 60s may not be thinking about it, but then when they start to think about it, they might be thinking about it for the next 20 or 30 years. What would they like that money to do? How are we going to continue the ministry that I was involved in when I was there and active? So there's a lot involved in that. Is there a difference between an endowment and a legacy gift? Charlie, you want to talk about that?
Well, normally the gifts are for endowment, but there's two kinds of endowments. Okay, if you leave $25,000 to the cathedral, the board of chapter will decide where that money goes. They could put that into the heritage fund. They could put that into the church fund, the outreach fund, or use it to decorate the church. That's their decision. Or put it in the fund for those things. That's quasi-endowment because that money can be taken out for an emergency. A true endowment is regulated by United States rules. And normally 4 or 5% can only be taken out of that. And it's good when you have a record to know did it come as a bequest with no restrictions or is it restricted to endowment.
Or restricted for a particular kind of fund or a particular kind of use.
Yes. And again, people will quite often talk with the priest about that, what is needed and what they care about.
Here's another question, Charlie. Does the Cathedral Legacy Society have levels, for example, bronze, silver, gold, to recognize various levels of pledging or giving? So I'll answer part of that in terms of the pledging part of that. We never put people into levels. We have done that with capital campaigns where we've asked for capital gifts or major gifts at a particular level that might create an opportunity for someone to name an object or put a memorial on something. But we don't do that around the Legacy Society. First of all, we don't know necessarily what people are going to give. We just know that they're planning to give. And then the thing about pledging is we also want to understand that different people are in different places in their lives financially. We're in the cathedral here in Baltimore, is in the center of Baltimore, and our congregation is very economically diverse. And so because of that, we don't want to say that one pledge is better or different than another. So we still focus on tithing or striving to tithe so that based on a percentage of what people have to give, not necessarily a particular amount. Charlie, you want to add anything to that?
I don't believe in having different, like Legacy Society, different groups of that, because then you're highlighting the wealthy people and everybody else down the level. I believe it's all the names are done. There's no differences. All gifts are accepted. If somebody's leaving 5% of their estate and their estate winds up to be $400 because they've been a lot of time in a nursing home, they're part of Legacy Society. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In fact, I have a story I'll tell you in a few minutes about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the next question I was going to get to is from Patricia, and it says, what are the demographics of your participants? What percentage of your congregation has participated in 11 years. And so we have an active giving group of about 170 households. And so we have about 40, what did you say, 42 that are currently part of the Legacy Society. So that's not a huge percentage. Um, but I also find that in terms of we have people who are more, I think, I don't know, Charlie, we don't collect the demographics of their age, but I'm guessing it's more older people who are actually doing their, they've gotten past, buying their first house and putting their kids through college and things like that and wondering about, where their wealth is going to go. What did Joe say earlier? That the current generation has a massive amount of wealth that's going to transfer in the next 10 to 20 years. So it's important to kind of just get the request out there and just say, we're hoping that you can support the church now, and we're hoping you can support the church in the future, and make provision for that depending on what your circumstances are. What do you think, Charlie?
I would just add that that's a good number of people. 11 years ago, we only had a few, and it's growing.
Right.
It's growing every year because again, it's when people decide to go make a new will. They can do a codicil, but normally it's a new will,
Yeah.
and so they may have that brochure sitting around for ages. I had a parishioner in St. Thomas's Church, our largest giver, did not join our society, Legacy Society, until his wife died.
Oh.
His wife died, he redid his will, and generously supported the church. So it depends on things like that happening. And again, that's why you want a brochure that they can take to their attorney or their financial advisor and find out which is the best way to remember your congregation in their will. Legacy.
One question here was our Legacy Society, about 30 members, did not ask for congregants to specify how much they had in their wills for the church. Do you think it's important for planning purposes to go back and ask them about a specific amount, or is it okay to find out their amounts when they pass on? And I think the reality of that is there's really no way to plan ahead for that. We certainly don't know, when people will pass on, and when those gifts might come and when the estate might get settled. So we never really plan on that money. But then when it does come, it can create opportunities. So we're at a cathedral, so we have a chapter as our governing body. And so when money is given in someone's will, whether they were part of the Legacy Society or not, then the chapter has an opportunity to say, well, how would we like to use this money? And what would we like to do? Would we want to hold on to it for a little while? Do we want to put it in a particular fund or direct it in a particular way that might honor the person that gave it? So I don't think there's a way to plan for that in terms of what might happen. I think long term, you might be able to notice that, $25,000 to $30,000 a year might come from bequests, but you certainly can't plan on it.
No.
All right, some other things in the chat. Any other questions? There we go. Thomas says, I know you showed both a heritage fund and an outreach fund in your brochure. How specific would you recommend being in a brochure about targeting giving? That's a great question.
Targeted giving mean to those funds?
Yeah, should you have more than two funds? The cathedral, we have a couple of restricted funds, one around Alder Guild and one around property use. But sometimes people make a gift. We had a memorial gift that was given to help us with our live streaming. That was never anything we ever, imagined we would need. But that person, as they got older in their life, they really appreciated having the live stream to keep them connected, and they wanted to make sure they could keep going. So, sometimes you can't plan ahead for those kinds of things. Charlie, would you think it's right in saying that in general, it's better to encourage non-restricted gifts so that the people who receive the money at that time can make a determination about what they need at that moment?
Well, I have two ways of looking at it. Yes, you don't want specific gifts, but if a heritage fund or an outreach fund is broad enough that the money can be used wisely, what you don't want is 5 different funds with all different things, and then you're boxed in by those funds.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if people want to be specific, they'll be specific. But quite often, it's most of what we got at St. Thomas's as parish rector was either heritage or the outreach. Cathedral, you have the funds for outreach too, and for caring for the place.
Yeah, yeah. Ed asks, how would you introduce a legacy society to a congregation for the first time? And I think that part of that introduction is someone who's willing to stand up and say, I want to start a legacy society and I'm adding my name to the list. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, I think when I did this at St. Thomas's, I had a woman who was single, banker, loved the church. I did a funeral for her dog. We had a great relationship. She was a banker. She chaired the committee. Then I had two other men, older men, both squeaked of integrity. One in his 70s had met his wife in the youth group. Another one had been there like for 30 years. People had knew, I would have them manage my estate. They were that kind of trustworthy. They were the co-chair. So we sent the letter out inviting people to do this. We had three people on it, one who was a competent person for managing it, but two people who just signed it and said, we believe in this. We have given our request and we believe it. Please join us.
Yeah, so the part about getting started is, describing to people what it is exactly. And in its simplest sense, it's really making a commitment to give some money to the church after you die. And however you do that, that's, kind of each individual's way of responding. But you definitely need to have people who are willing to step up and say, and I want to do that. And, Charlie, you kind of started out with this, or maybe it was Joe who said, won't you join me in doing this? We have to lead by example, no doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt.
And also, I believe on pledge cards, you should have a line saying, yes, I've included St. Thomas's in my estate plans, will, or I've included the Cathedral in my will and estate plans. I found you should get 2 or 3 people a year, check off that box. Then we invited them to join the Legacy Society.
Right.
That's how we found out about them.
Yeah, they'd already done it, but they didn't know that maybe they didn't even know there was a legacy society and they might be included. And there are people who want to be anonymous, as you said earlier. It's absolutely fine to not, name people if they don't want to be named, but to say we have 7 people as well, or households as well, that are anonymous that are part of this because it's a good sized list. Well, Charlie, it looks like we're kind of through the Q&A. Is there anything else you want to offer in terms of wrap up?
Well, I'd just like to say that for those watching this, what do you do next? My suggestion would be the great thing about this webinar, is you can watch it at home. You could do it at a vestry meeting with the rector and the vestry listening to this. Or say, this is your homework, vestry. Rector, have a cold iced tea, spend an hour, watch it, and then come for the meeting prepared to talk. And if you have finance committee, same thing. It's available. Have them watch it. The printouts will be there for about legacies for the booklet, both booklets. You can look at that. Wow. And then also with the pledge card, that should be going out this fall. You may find out some of the people have remembered your congregation in their estate plans. And those are the people you go to have help in publicizing it and doing it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to end with that. And I also like to say thank you to Rob for doing this. And I'd like to say thank you to Joe Swimmer for inviting us. Thank you for Laura, who did a lot of work helping us put this together. And I thank you all for watching, because you hopefully have learned something. And I pray, and I will for a minute or two, a prayer of thanksgiving. Let us pray. God, we thank you for bringing us together for this hour. I give thanks for Rob and sharing this wonderful ministry at the Cathedral. I give thanks for Joe Swimmer, Lord. He's done a great job with making the Episcopal Parish Network make a difference for our parishes in the United States and abroad. Give thanks to Laura, Lord, who put a lot of work together, pulling us all together, doing the work that made this go so smoothly. So we thank you for all of you joining with us. May God watch over you. May God bless you. May God enhance your generosity. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.